I work as a photojournalist. I travel all over the world. I happen to be working on a book in Laos, and I did what I do so often. I got on a bus to go from the north to the south and never reached my destination. Halfway through, the bus was hit by a logging truck, and as we turned a corner on this windy road, and the bus was sheared in half, and I happened to be at the point of impact. People around me were killed. I was the most injured person on the bus and was pinned in between the logging truck and the seats, and everybody filed off that bus, and I was left alone as the bus began to catch fire, and two tourists came back on, yanked me from the seats and pulled me out and got me out of that bus and saved my life. And they were part of a range of people that helped me get out of the situation alive. I actually lost consciousness once they got me to the side of the road. When I came to, realized I couldn't walk. I had broken my back, my pelvis, all my ribs. My arm was completely shattered, hanging off and bleeding. And what I didn't know at the time is that was actually the least of my problems. I was actually dying of internal injuries. I was picked up and brought by the locals to a small village, and a young man there, who I later found out was not a doctor or even a nurse, proceeded to sew up my arm with nothing more than a needle and thread, no painkillers, no anesthesia. And you know, he was the next one that had a hand in saving my life. And then what was quite amazing is I lay there for more than 10 hours, and there were no phones in this town of Kazi. There were no hospitals. There was no health care in the whole country. So there was nowhere to take me. They didn't know what to do or how to help as desperately as they wanted to. There was a point where I realized I was not getting out of this situation alive, and I wrote a note to my family. I told them how I died and where I died. And I just wanted them to know that I didn't die alone or die in fear. And that was important to me. I felt like I was ready to let go, and it just wasn't my time. At that moment, a British aid worker just happened to be driving by. Alan Guy drove me. He put me in the back of his pickup truck and drove me 8 hours all the way to Thailand. And he was hugely instrumental in me even sitting here right now. I question every day, what kindness would I do for strangers, because I'm alive because of the kindness of a stranger, a slew of them. I got to Thailand, and that's when I heard how really extensive my injuries were. My heart had actually been torn out. I had a lacerated spleen, and there was one doctor in this border hospital in this area of Thailand, and I actually flatlined on the table. And this doctor brought me back. I was 3 weeks in intensive care. They called my family. My brother flew over. You know, they told him that I probably wasn't going to make it. And it was a pretty grim prognosis when I got back to San Francisco, where I lived at the time. I had many extensive surgeries and rehabilitation over the duration of a couple of years. And I remember after one of the surgeries, the doctor coming in and asking me, you know, what did I plan to do with my life now? Because I certainly would never walk properly again, or certainly work as a photojournalist again. And I just said, really? Because I plan on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for my birthday next year. I just wasn't accepting that, what they were telling me. And I decided to take my fate into my own hands. And I actually changed all my doctors and my physical therapists. I remember stumbling into that physical therapist's office saying I wanted to climb Kilimanjaro. I don't even know where it came from. I just somehow needed a goal to work towards. And it took me 2 years, but I did it. I made it to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. And that was huge for me. I felt like I had really proved to myself and others that I now had my physical strength back. But as any good mountain climber knows, the real surviving is in the descent. And I had to think about, what was I going to do with my life now that I'd been given my life back? I think about that every day, because each day for me is a giant PS. I absolutely should not be here right now. I really think about, how can I give back? And so when I wrote this book, Learning to Breathe, which is a memoir, it's a story of my life and how I got to this place, because I feel like everything I've done in my life gave me the tools and the skills to be able to get through something so difficult. So I wrote this book with the hopes of helping others. And so I started a foundation, and it's called the Faces of Hope Fund, and it helps children around the world medically and through education. So it's my little way of giving back, but really it's brought a whole new empathy to my work, because I can really understand now what it is to suffer, and the hardships that people do go through, and we go through them every day on whatever level. You don't need to be hit by a logging truck to go through a difficult situation. Life is just not always an easy stride. When I meet and talk with groups and people, it is very much about exploring what it is that we can do in our lives to help others. And once you want to help others, I believe that it really helps yourself.